Welcome back to the Crypto World channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now we are getting extremely close to seeing a breakout in the short-term Bitcoin RSI, which means we're getting extremely close to invalidating this bearish divergence, just like these other times right here, which is of course a potential bullish signal to watch out for Bitcoin, as we are now seeing more liquidity building towards the upside. And despite that latest drop in the price of Bitcoin in the short term over the last 1 to 2 days, we actually saw mainly BlackRock being the biggest buyer of Bitcoin over the last couple of days, with massive inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs, mainly the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF buying a lot of Bitcoin throughout this drop right here. So it's possible this is just a trap before we start to see another bullish move. So yes, I'm still in my Bitcoin long position. In just a moment, I'll be talking about my exact trading strategy moving forward, alongside Ethereum now bouncing off this crucial area of support in the short term, while the price of Solana is now also getting very close to breaking out in the RSI, possibly about to invalidate this bearish divergence. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to talk about the Bitcoin news today, because just on Tuesday, we have once again a massive net inflow into the spot Bitcoin ETFs, this time around almost $900 million, around $875 million US as a net inflow into the spot Bitcoin ETFs just on Tuesday alone, on top of that net inflow of over $1.2 billion US coming into the Bitcoin ETFs just on Monday. And so just reminding you, the all-time best day, the all-time record for a net inflow in a single trading day across all of the ETFs adds up to a net inflow of around 1.37 billion, just shy of $1.4 billion. And in the first 2 days of this week, we have inflows of over $2 billion US across just 2 days. So basically a very solid start to the week in terms of inflows, despite the latest drop-off, which is very interesting. While this was happening and a lot of people were panic selling Bitcoin in the short term, we were seeing Wall Street pumping in not just hundreds of millions, but billions of dollars over the last 2 days to buy Bitcoin, mainly through the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. And so basically on Monday, BlackRock bought around $970 million worth of Bitcoin. And yesterday on Tuesday, they bought roughly $900 million worth of Bitcoin in one single trading day on behalf of investors. So once again, while a lot of retail investors potentially panic selling with little drop-offs like this, that could potentially just be a bear trap, trapping you to sell Bitcoin or trapping you in a short position before we potentially see another bounce later on at some point, considering overall, especially on slightly larger timeframes, still looking at bullish price structure, which I'll talk about in just a moment. And of course, this massive money here on Wall Street through these ETFs like BlackRock, continuing to buy hundreds of millions and billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin in just a couple of days here. And if we're taking a look at the weekly Bitcoin price chart, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, as I've already said over the last couple of days, with the latest higher high in the price, a new all-time high breakout, not just in the actual price, but in the weekly candle closes as well, this now technically invalidates this bearish divergence, at least for now. But with that being said, while the price is forming higher highs, we're still technically sitting in lower highs in the RSI, which means it's possible we could reconfirm the bearish divergence at some stage, unless of course we see a breakout in the RSI above this previous high. In that case, then there'll be no divergence at all. So that's something to pay attention to moving forward. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, like I've already been saying over the last 1 week or so, we have a bullish crossover here, already confirmed, already playing out, showing bullish momentum, at least in the short to midterm here, talking about the coming days, weeks, possibly a month or so. Because if we're taking a look at the last couple of times we saw a bullish crossover confirm in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD, we usually end up seeing at least some bullish price action follow, sometimes a lot more bullish price action for a number of weeks. So once again, this only just confirmed, give or take, a week ago. And so overall, once again, on the slightly larger timeframes here, still looking good, as I've already been saying over the last few days. And of course, as I said in my last video, we already hit my exact technical price target here for this bullish breakout above these highs at around 117K. From that point onwards, I've been targeting at just above 126K as a technical price target, in between 126K to 127K, and that's exactly where the price went to, in that $1,000 range that I've been targeting since all the way back down here, and perfectly rejected from that exact target. But potentially another reason as to why we did see that short-term pullback is of course to help to reset the RSI out of overbought, because with of course the latest high just here, we had a major bullish move pushing the RSI into overbought on the daily time frame, which is a strong signal or strong indication telling us that we're likely going to see at least some sort of cool off. That could be a sideways consolidation, maybe a slight pullback. So this is all very normal price action after seeing an overbought signal, but an overbought signal by itself does not guarantee the end of this bullish trend. Once again, it could just cause a little bit of a break, a little bit of a short-term setback before ultimately continuing the trend higher later on. And if we're taking a look at the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, if we're talking about more of a short-term trends, just the short-term price movements up and down, as we could see, obviously we've kind of ended that previous short-term move and in more of a short-term bearish move right here, playing out this bearish divergence. But obviously the nature of a short-term move is that it is short-lasted. It can quickly flip. So as always, understand the difference between the different time frames. The small time frames, looking at short-term moves, small moves in the price that don't last very long. They can flip very quickly. The larger time frames don't flip very often. As I've been saying since basically 2023, almost every day since then, we are in a bull market and of course not in a bear market. Obviously that's been the case for years. It does not flip very often if we're talking about the larger time frames. And so once again, in the mid to longer term, still looking pretty good here. Obviously a possible bearish divergence forming, but not confirmed. Still in a bull market, still showing bullish momentum, and on the daily time frame, still forming bullish price structure. For example, higher lows, higher highs, and still relatively close to all-time highs despite that latest pullback here. It's just in the immediate short term, once again, we technically still have that bearish divergence to watch out for, which could possibly continue to play out for a little bit here in the short term. But the signal that I'll be watching out for in order to determine the end of this bearish divergence would be, of course, a breakout in the RSI. That's usually a strong signal telling us the bearish divergence is over. We're now regaining strength. So for example, this line of resistance right here in the RSI on the 4-hour Bitcoin price chart, if we start to see a breakout above that line right there, and especially a breakout above a previous high in the RSI, those are signals telling us that we're likely going to basically end the bearish divergence and continue the bullish trend here on the daily time frame. And of course, the last couple of times we saw a signal like this, obviously breaking out from all of these lower highs in the RSI on the 4-hour time frame, usually that's a bit of a reversal signal telling us that the bearish divergence is over and get ready for a bit more bullish price action. And so once again, we're not there just yet. So we're still in a bit of a weird phase in the immediate short term where it's possible we could play out the bearish divergence for a little longer, but soon, maybe in the next couple of days, expect obviously at some stage this could ultimately invalidate, especially considering it's only a short-term signal. So it's unlikely that it's going to last over many weeks. Usually it only lasts over just a few days. We're talking about the 4-hour time frame. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, obviously we still have a small amount of liquidity at just above 120,000 and also at around 118,000. But with that being said, most of the liquidity in the short term for the price of Bitcoin is still building above the price of Bitcoin at approximately 126.3K. So at right around the all-time high, we currently have a lot of liquidity building right around here, which can potentially draw the price upwards towards that liquidity to wipe out that liquidity, to wipe out a bunch of short positions. And so once again, I want to make it clear this bearish divergence is not yet invalidated, so it's still something to watch out for. It could possibly continue to play out, maybe with a bit of choppy sideways price action, for example, but maybe in a few days from now or a week from now, for example, it's ultimately that soon enough we could continue up towards that liquidity. It's likely we could ultimately do that, considering especially on the slightly larger time frames, the daily, the 3-day time frame, still overall looking bullish in terms of the price structure and the momentum. And if we're taking a look at my exact trading strategy, of course, I'm still currently long on the price of Bitcoin. Now, with that being said, I've already taken a decent amount of profits out of this long position. Obviously, as the trade goes on, I just basically slightly reduce the size of the trade at certain points of resistance to take a little bit of profits here and there out of the trade, but not closing the entire trade at any one level in case the price basically keeps pumping. Obviously, I can continue to profit from that bullish price action if I still have have at least some of the long position open. And so obviously over the last one day, I've really made no new changes to this trade. My stop loss still sitting at the same level. The size of the trade not changed over the last one day. So I'm still sitting on roughly 9,600 USD in realized already secured profits out of this long position in about 1 week of a trade here. And of course, stop loss still sitting in profits here, so that even in the worst case scenario, that would also add another roughly 2,500 USD on top of that already realized profits, even in the worst case scenario. And if you want to take trades just like this for yourself to make a lot of quick and easy profits in the crypto market, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on Bitfinex. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bitfinex below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim massive trading and deposit bonuses. For example, you can claim up to 120,000 USDT out of a prize pool for trading bonuses here just by simply trading crypto using that link. You can basically be eligible here if you're trading especially larger volumes, but there's also deposit bonuses here. For example, if you deposit as little as $100, you get a $20 bonus, or if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your Bitfinex account. Basically free money from the exchange, which you could use to trade over on Bitfinex to actually take essentially a risk-free trade using the bonus from the exchange, just simply by making an account, making a deposit using that link. But if you don't use that link, unfortunately, you can't claim any of these bonuses here. So you might as well do that if you're going to be trading crypto anyway. And in case you're wondering, Bitfinex is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want Bitfinex as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I will also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim massive trading and deposit bonuses. For example, you can claim up to 10,000 USD in trial fund bonuses and 8,000 USDT in actual withdrawable stablecoins just by depositing and trading crypto using that link. And on top of that, without making any deposit or any trade, just by simply making an account using the link below the video, you get a free $30 sign up bonus and 1 month free VIP 3 upgrade. So basically very cheap trading fees over on 2bit. But once again, all of this right here is only available if you're using the link below the video to actually make your 2bit account. So once again, if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go using the links below the video to those exchanges to take advantage of these major bonuses here. And in case you're wondering, yes, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart here on the 3-day time frame, and like I've already been saying over the last 2 to 3 weeks now, of course, we already have an active bullish divergence playing out in the Bitcoin dominance on the 3-day time frame, and this will likely continue in the short term for a little longer here. And I'm saying that right now. Obviously, this will likely continue moving forward, as I've been saying since basically 2 to 3 weeks ago right here, which has been playing out as predicted. And so once again, this means that a lot of the altcoin market, not every altcoin, some altcoins can be outliers, but a lot of the altcoin market on average will likely be either performing quite similar to what Bitcoin is doing or slightly underperforming Bitcoin. So basically, don't expect a massive altcoin season, at least not right now across the altcoin market. Once again, there can be outliers, but right now, a lot of the major altcoins are at least slightly underperforming or just performing similar to what Bitcoin is doing. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, right now Ethereum is still in this same sideways price range in between this support and this resistance. First of all, this support is still sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k, and this area of resistance is sitting in between roughly 4.8k to 4.9k. But more recently, these latest highs right here, obviously we started to struggle a little bit slightly underneath 4.8k, so keep that in mind. As we get close to 4.8k, not necessarily exactly that level, a lot of people in anticipation of that resistance may look to take profits or sell Ethereum, causing the price to maybe start struggling a little bit under 4.8k. So keep that in mind. That is resistance to pay attention to. And if we're taking a look at the 8-hour Ethereum price chart, looking at the short term, technically speaking, obviously we're still respecting this support and this resistance very nicely here. We perfectly bounced from this support multiple times, perfectly rejected from the this resistance, especially if we're looking at the candle closes. And so of course we have this area of resistance in between around 46.80 to 47.20, which I've been warning about here on the channel since before we rejected there. And then of course, if we ultimately break out above that area, we also have more resistance here in between around 48.20 to 48.50. And as for support, we have this area that I've been talking about since before we just perfectly bounced from that area, and that's sitting in between around 44.50 to 4.5k. So continue to expect support in that area, of course, but if the price confirms a break with candle closes below around 44.50, and especially if we fail to get back above that area, flipping it into new resistance, in that situation, we could quite possibly see a drop down towards below 4.3k, possibly down towards around 42.50 to 42.80 as the next significant area of support to watch out for. But once again, for now, we've not yet confirmed a break below 44.50, which means in between 44.50 to 4.5k is still support to pay attention to. And technically speaking, this shorter term bearish divergence is still currently active. It is still valid on the 8-hour Ethereum price chart, with higher highs still confirmed in the price and these slight lower highs still intact here in the RSI. We've not yet confirmed an invalidation signal in the RSI or in the price with any breakout here in both the price or the RSI. And so obviously, despite this latest bounce right here, it is possible that the price could continue to lack bullish momentum for a little longer. Maybe over the next couple of days, we form maybe a sideways consolidation, kind of just lacking bullish momentum while the bearish divergence is technically still active. But obviously, at least for now, this support is preventing more bearish price action. Obviously, it is supporting the price of Ethereum. And as always, just pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing to figure out what is likely going to happen for a lot of altcoins. So with this slight little bounce right here for Bitcoin in the short term, of course, this is helping a lot of altcoins in the short term with a slight bounce. But remember, because the Bitcoin dominance is having this bullish relief, it means a lot of altcoins will be slightly underperforming Bitcoin is a very likely scenario. And with that being said, if we're taking a look at Solana on the 2-day time frame, right now we're potentially about to retest this area of resistance in between around $230 to $233, give or take. So roughly around $230. We still have a decent amount of resistance around there, and we also have more resistance at roughly $250. And as for support, I'll be watching roughly 216 as a level of support in the short term. And if we break below that level, we have significant support here sitting in between around 190 to 200. And remember, despite seeing these short-term pullbacks or short-term bearish trends along the way, we're technically still within a longer-term bullish trend, larger bullish price structure on the 2-day and the daily time frame, forming higher lows and higher highs. So keep that in mind. And if we're taking a look at the 4-hour Solana price chart, just looking at the short term, similar to how Bitcoin is getting closer towards a bit of a breakout here in the RSI in the short term, which could be one invalidation signal for the bearish divergence, we're seeing something very similar for Solana, obviously getting very close to possibly breaking out here in the RSI. So if we confirm with the candle close to cement the RSI in place, if we confirm a breakout here above at least this line of resistance, but especially if we confirm a breakout in the RSI above a previous high with the candle close to secure that in place, in that situation, that'll be a strong invalidation signal for the bearish divergence, basically telling us that the bearish divergence already played its part here, it's already played out and would be no longer playing out, which means we could likely see a bit more of a bullish relief if we start to see a breakout here, ideally above a previous high in the RSI. And so definitely keep an eye on this in the short term. We are testing a crucial level right now in this indicator for Solana. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, technically speaking, we've not yet confirmed an invalidation signal for this massive bearish divergence on the weekly XRP price chart. So technically still something to watch out for, still something to at least be aware of. And if we're taking a look at the daily XRP price chart, we're still in this same sideways price range as I've been talking about for a long time now on the channel, in between this support and this resistance. First of all, this area of support is still sitting in between around $2.70 to $2.80, and this area of resistance is still sitting in between around $3.10 to $3.15. And so far, we've pretty much been perfectly rejecting from this resistance and perfectly bouncing from this support. But of course, with the latest little bounce right here, we have actually bounced slightly before for the support, so keep that in mind, but ultimately still in a sideways price range. So in terms of the larger momentum or the price structure here on the daily time frame, yes, we could see short-term bullish moves, short-term bearish moves, but overall we're actually looking relatively neutral, just bouncing around in a sideways price range. And not financial advice, but usually in a sideways price range like this, if we're seeing some choppy sideways price action but volatility between support and resistance like what we're seeing right now, usually an excellent trading strategy for this would be a grid bot. It's basically an automated trading strategy where it buys as the price goes down and sells as the price goes up, and basically by the time we hit support it mostly buys, and by the time we hit resistance it mostly take profit or sells. And it's basically fully automated. Once you set it up ready to go, it's essentially passively trading a sideways price range using a grid bot strategy. And if you want to know more about that, stick around to the end of the video to find out more. I'll leave a link to another video which you should definitely watch out for. Not financial advice, but something where you could easily make a lot of passive and quick profits right here during a sideways price range like this. And if we're taking a look at the daily Chainlink price chart right now, obviously we're still testing roughly $22 to $23. Obviously the price is consolidating around this area, which means we're both finding support and resistance around this area, really in between roughly $22 to $23. And if we were to see a further breakdown below $22, in that situation the next significant support is of course this area in between $19 to $20, which we pretty much perfectly bounced from at these lows. We dipped slightly below $20 and perfectly bounced from that area, which I talked about since before those lows were put in place. And of course we have resistance at roughly $23, slightly above $23, and some major resistance at roughly $25 if we see a further breakout. And now technically speaking, despite short-term bullish and bearish moves, obviously the price structure on the daily time frame still not looking too good for Chainlink. We're still technically seeing lower highs and lower lows on the daily Chainlink price chart. So unless we start to see a breakout, ideally above $25 overall, in terms of the price structure, not looking too good. And so obviously this is a clear example of one of the altcoins, at least. Obviously there's many others, but at least one of the altcoins that has been quite underperforming Bitcoin, especially recently over the last 1 week or so, 1 to 2 weeks, while Bitcoin's had this massive bullish move. Obviously, Chainlink has been significantly underperforming, but that's very normal to expect if we're seeing a bullish relief for the Bitcoin dominance. Expect a lot of altcoins, not necessarily every altcoin, but a lot of alts to at least slightly, possibly massively underperform Bitcoin while we're seeing a bullish move like this in the Bitcoin dominance. So at least for now, that's still the situation for Chainlink. But remember, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, like what I'm doing right now with this long position, still making a lot of quick and easy profits in crypto, then get set up ready to go using the links below the video to those exchanges if you want to claim the massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can take trades just like this for yourself to make a lot of quick and easy profits in the crypto market, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.